Alright guys, I got my Snoopy coffee ready to drink for fall. And these are our beautiful sourdough, apple spiced pancakes. I will leave a recipe in the description. I'll also leave a link to the Bread Beckers if you're interested in other items from Sue Becker and learning more about milling your own grains. And that's what they look like. And they're really good with maple syrup or honey, whatever you prefer. The last one's always the big one, because by that time, I don't know about y'all if you're making pancakes, but I'm over it. I just want to be done so I can sit down and enjoy them. Put a little butter on there. I don't really need a lot of butter because I put butter in a pan. I'm going to put just a little bit of maple syrup. Hi guys, Brandy here, back in the kitchen. Happy fall, y'all. So for the first day of fall, I wanted to share one of my favorite recipes for fall, and that is going to be a sourdough apple pancake. I also do this with a pumpkin, but I figure you're getting pumpkin to everything, so I thought I would stick with apples. The base of this recipe actually comes from Sue Becker at the Bread Beckers, and I kind of made it my own, and so I use her plans as a base, and then what I'm using is the last of my dehydrated apples. I don't know if you can see them in there, from last fall, because we live about an hour from Ellijay, Georgia, which is the apple capital of the South, and I like dice them and dehydrate them, and then I can use them in baking, just like if you had raisins or something like that. So those are kind of the last ones I had from last year. We usually take our last trip to Ellijay at the beginning of December. We typically go about once a month, because each month you have different apples coming in to season, and they all bring something good and wonderful. We have kind of our favorites or what have you. So this recipe, let me read you the recipe. It calls for 1 cup of sourdough starter, and it needs to be fed. Now you can make this. I have totally made this with discard. So in her recipe, she kind of wants it to be like prepped and all that. I've used this totally with discard. But if you can see the bubbles, and it's doubled in size. It smells really good. Good and soured. So you're going to use a cup of that. You're going to use a cup of milk. A lot of times I like to use buttermilk. Today I'm actually just going to use regular milk. You can also do a coconut almond milk if you don't do milk. 1 cup of freshly milled flour, which I'm fixing to do. I'm doing kamut. 2 eggs. A tablespoon of honey, so I'm going to do some wildflower honey in this one. You need some baking soda. I got some, you need any baking soda, some salt, and you need 3 tablespoons of oil, which I'm using coconut oil. I've also liked to do this when I'm just out of the infused butter olive oil. This one's really good with that as well. And how I'm going to kind of make this have an appley theme. I'm going to add a little vanilla. I'm going to add a little nutmeg, some ground cinnamon, and my apple pieces. And so that'll give it a nice little appley flavor. You could, if you wanted to, if you have a small amount, maybe a few tablespoons, you could put some applesauce, or if you don't do eggs, you could totally replace the eggs with applesauce as well. That's like a little trick. I'm not going to do that because I have an abundance of eggs. So I'm going to use my eggs, and I'm just going to rely on my apple pieces and my fallish, appleish spices to give it that vibe and that flavor. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to speed this up so that the video is not too long. And I'll show you when we get to the cooking process what they look like. Alright guys, so as you can see, this is it's not quite as thick as I want it, and that happens sometimes when you're milling your own grains, depending on what kind of grains you're using, especially ancient grains. So I am going to use I'm going to take probably 1/8 of a cup of my all-purpose einkorn flour, and I'm just going to kind of put that in there to try to give it a little more thickness. Let me show you. You should do it. So now I'm going to get my cast iron heating up so we can cook these up. I just usually melt some butter, and you could also do, if you wanted to spray, put some coconut oil or coconut oil spray, and but you want to get your pan heated up, because if it's hot enough, it should not stick. And you cook them on one side till you see it bubbling up really good. You flip it, maybe another 30 seconds, and they're done. Alright, so we're going to take a bite. And as the darker color is because this is wheat that I milled. Okay, so it's whole grain, other than the little bit of, and that's still whole grain, my einkorn. So it's going to have that darker color. So good. And I love the bits of the apple. So good. So I hope you'll try these out. I hope you have a great first day of fall, and we'll see you in the next one.